Hello and welcome to Sporting Jibberish. I'm Stu Booth.
I'm Jack Luffman. Stu, look at you in the sunshine.
Well, I figured it's the only bright thing about my week so far is the sunshine. It's been a pretty dismal week on all fronts as far as I'm concerned.
But you're still wearing the shirt with pride, I think. I can see.
Well, I think that's the only thing you can do is that you armchair fans out there or part-timers is that you have your highs, your lows, but they're still there and you stick with them.
Got it.
But we'll talk more about Liverpool shortly. We're going to cover Liverpool. We're going to cover anything football related. A little bit about the rugby, also a little bit of boxing as well. It's been going on, and the T20 cricket. So plenty to get our teeth stuck into today. But let's start with Sporting Week. So we have got one game for you, haven't we? Because
yesterday's game was rearranged. That's going to be the political stance on that. I think there's been some
we're not
jiggery pokery, I think, from certain areas, certain teams of the league. But hey ho.
Is it? I think you missed your game yesterday because of that Gems corporate event that nobody knew about.
Yeah, that's right. You know, the Gems corporate event that we all work for and didn't know it was on. Yeah. Anyway, let's say about the we did play last weekend. Fortunately, I guess crashing back down to earth. I guess with a defeat. We didn't get enough runs. Effectively, we only got not effectively. We got 138, which is nowhere near enough runs. And then, to be fair, we got ourselves into the game. We got them 60 for 5, but just couldn't get that 6th wicket soon enough to really put them under pressure. And they did get them 4-6 with just over 3 hours to go. So we did it a good effort, much better effort at trying to defend that low score than the previous time that happened, which was nice to see. But like I said, we just didn't get enough runs, and we've got to, all the batsmen, we've got to look at ourselves and try and make sure that when we bat first, we put a score on the board.
Yeah. And how did you get on personally with the bat, Jackie Luffers?
I got 40 odd again, 41, I think. But not the best innings. It was a bit that. Don't get me wrong, they had some good. I think 2, if not 3, UAE players playing, or UAE long squad players, as they call them. So it was a bit kind of. We didn't. I think somebody said in that dressing room there were too many dots in our innings. So it was a little bit like big shot or nothing. And I was probably a little bit guilty of that as well last week. Because like I say, they were a good bowling side, so you had to really work for even your singles, and we probably didn't work hard enough for that. And like I say, I'll probably fit into that bracket as well. But when I went to go big, I did hit the ball all right again. So just one of those things, I guess. But we were hoping to bounce back yesterday. Obviously, it was off, so hopefully we get to play again next weekend. But we are due a bye weekend as well because there's a team that's dropped out. But we don't really know when that was meant. Well, that was meant to be next weekend, but hopefully they rearrange it. So that'll be 2 weeks on the bounce with no fixture, which is never good. But anyway,
where do you fit on the league table then?
So I think going into yesterday fixtures, we were 4th or 5th, but I think 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th have all got 12 points. So we're there or thereabouts to get to that top 4 playoff part of this season. So we just have to. There's nothing we can do. Just got to play the game whenever that is and win and see what happens after that. But we're going all right. Like I said, we're developing. And the positive thing was as well that the seconds played midweek and won. So that was actually their first win of their sort of campaign, which was really good under the lights at the 7th. So they chased the 94 and 95 to win, and. Will got 60 odd out in the batting, which was good to see him back playing. And then Mohamed Israth, who got 50 odd the week before, got another 50 off 20 odd balls. So
we'll be knocking on the door for the first team.
Absolutely right. We're certainly in need of that. I think he's a little bit unorthodox and goes from ball 1, which is probably what we are missing. We're all fairly kind of, I would say, traditional players. We've not got that kind of X factor, difference, point of difference. So hopefully, we'll see if his availability is good and the selection committee think he's worth a shot. get him in. But you played again, didn't you? On Thursday next.
Yeah, so we played Thursday just gone. We played. It was last year's league title champions, so Dubai FC versus us. Both unbeaten. Both put a few goals on the chart, so it looked like it was like open season. But yeah, it was just a really strange game. I think first 10 minutes we've come out of the traps. We've gone 1-0 up. I'll be honest, it shouldn't have counted. The goalie's gone to clear it. It's ricocheted around, hit our lad's hand. It's fallen to him and he's tapped it in, put us 1-0 up. And then unfortunately, we've then lost probably our best player, Pooley, ex-United boy. He's gone, his hammy's gone again. Having come back, and he's come back probably maybe 2 weeks too early. He's pulled up trying to chase the ball down. And then whilst we're doing the substitution, called the referee over to make the sub while the substitution was trying to happen. Referee's not stopped the game. They've started playing. And look, I've got no issues. You played to the whistle. They've then gone up the other end and scored. But referee's done us a bit of a kipper there. But I'm not going to blame the game on the referee because I said this to left back, is that it seemed to be every 50-50 decision he got wrong. So it wasn't wrong just for us. It was wrong for them as well. It was consistently bad. It's probably the best term to use. But it was really scrappy, close affair, as you probably expect, with probably the two of the best 3 or 4 teams in the league. And it stayed 1-1 up until about the 78th minute, I think. And then their player, who had a really good game, I think his name's Mario, really, really big handful, causes problems all night, hit a long ranger, and it's just fizzed over the goalkeeper. I think it's way past him. Put them 2-1 up, and then last minute of the game, we've pushed to try and get a goal back, and they've done a break, and it's finished 3-1 in the end. But I think when I look back, reflect on the game, it was close. I'd probably say that they just edged it. But 3-1 probably doesn't tell a true story of the game. But I suppose when you push forward, you always leave yourself open. So, hey-ho.
There we go again this week, is it? You got another fixture?
Yeah, we've got the Grizzly Bears, or just the Bears now, as they're known. So, yeah, it's important we bounce back now with 3 points because Irish have also started really well. They played 4-1-3, drawn 1. Dubai FC are 3 from 3 now. We're 2 from 3, so a long way to go. Win all the rest of our games this season, we win the league. But I think there's an element of, I think when I look back, we probably had ratings, probably too many 6 out of 7s. 6 and 7s across the board.
Yeah.
And they're probably their key player, Mario, and Jack's probably in the middle of the park. And I think Lars also had a decent game in the middle. They probably just edged it.
Yeah.
Hey ho, no point crying over spilt milk. It's gone now. Move on. Let's go and take on the Bears next week.
Push yourself down. And at the end of the day, you're in the title hunt a bit better than your other boys, the Liverpool boys.
Oh my goodness!
What's going?
Yeah. Let's go to football. We'll quickly recap last weekend's results. I've got them here. We'll start with the midday kickoff, which was actually Forest versus Liverpool. In a game where lots of huffing and puffing and not really much happening. And I was watching this with Matty Aldred, and I just kept thinking every time the ball went into the box, I just said to Matty, one of them's going to drop for somebody. It's going to drop. Somebody's going to score. I've no doubt we'll win this game. It'll drop for us. And it didn't. It just did not drop. But then probably what we've looked a little bit glass doored at the back. So we look like we could crack at any point. And they have. They've gone and scored off a nothing attack. But I think Klopp's come out and said it this morning, is that if we want to even think about top 4, consistency is going to be key. Salah keeps chipping away with goals, but doesn't look the same player as he was probably 12 months ago. Consistency there. Darwin Núñez, I know a lot of people are giving him a lot of stick, but I don't think his performances have been that bad. I think he's got better as the games have gone along, and I expect him, as the season goes, just to settle down a little bit more. It looks less rash now. So I think we've still got big things to come from him. But I did read an interesting article was saying that they're not blaming the forwards, they're not blaming the defence, they're blaming the midfield. And it was interesting the way they went about this. They were saying that teams would never have had the chance to get the head up to play balls over the top of Trent and do things like that and expose Liverpool's back line, because the midfield pressed so high and we pressed so quickly that teams would literally just try and scrap the ball around and we win the ball quite highly and then put them under pressure. And there's elements of that now, but I like Harvey Elliott. I like Carvalho. I don't think Curtis Jones is going to be quite good enough for Liverpool, if I'm completely honest. Henderson is an ageing midfielder who probably relied more on his energy than anything else. So he's struggling. Thiago still looks just unbelievable, but again, you're expecting a 30-plus-year-old to then bomb around the pitch. You can't do that. And Fabs looks off it. So I think there needs to be an injection of something in the middle of the park where we just need
Jude Bellingham,
that engine room back. Well, if only. But I think, unfortunately, with Liverpool, I think, remind me a bit like Spurs and Arsenal in the transfer window. If they don't get them before anybody else gets involved in the bidding, then they'll just pull out because they won't get involved in the bidding war.
Yeah.
So I think that when Jude comes around this summer, when people will be looking at buying him, Reals, Barca, City just outbid Liverpool, and Liverpool won't be in with a chance of it. Probably a bit like the Haaland situation. I know that there was talk about Klopp going to look at him, but as soon as you start throw some of them big boys into it, then we're not in that same ballpark.
Yeah. No, and then of course, so that was last week. You're gonna go through last week's, and then we'll talk about.
Well, So then Everton beat Palace 3-0. Great result for Frankie Lampard, especially I think when Everton have, I think, probably just a little bit more consistent than Liverpool, but I think for Everton, I think their main aim this season, speaking to a few Everton fans, is make sure they get to that 40-point mark first and then see what they can build from that. But with the squad they've got, their aspect shouldn't be that. It should be right, let's see if you can get to the top half of the table. But good result for them. City just came up, just turned up, scored 3, beat Brighton 3-1, went home. Chelsea 1, Man United 1 was an interesting game. What were your viewpoints on the fact that Chelsea only drawing at home against Manchester United? Or United now back to their better team?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's obviously something going there. Obviously, we'd spoken before that they beat Spurs in midweek. And to be fair, from my point, as bad as Spurs were, I did say Man United were decent, I thought, on the night. I didn't see the Chelsea-Man United game, but again, you would say, a bit like Spurs can't be any different. You know, we were happy with a 2-2 draw at Chelsea early in the season. Man United have got to be the same. You know, when you against clubs in and around you, if you can draw away and then win your home fixture against that club, you'd be more than happy, I would have thought. So, and of course, probably the way that they did it in that 94th, 95th minute equaliser probably hints a bit at that. Has he got something going? Have they got some team spirit going? You know, you think about all those late goals under Ferguson those years ago. You know, I hate to say it because I think it's funny when things aren't going well at Man United, but I wonder whether he's just getting something going. They're going to be nowhere near the title. I think they might come up short in the top 4 potentially, but there's definitely something brewing there in a positive way for Man United fans, I think. So yeah, I would have thought he'd be happy with the point at Chelsea.
Okay, right. Well, we'll whiz over to Sunday. Villa first game after Steven Gerrard going thump Brentford 4-0. Nobody'd seen that coming. Leeds losing at home to Fulham 3-2, which is a bad result for the Yankee Doodle over there. Southampton 1, Arsenal 1. I think for Arsenal, that's really 2 points dropped, considering where they are in the league and what their aspirations are. Wolves then getting spanked at home 4-0 to Leicester. And then probably another shock result of the day, Spurs 1, Newcastle 2.
Yeah, pretty poor from Spurs, I've got to be honest. Again, I think Newcastle played well. The surprising thing that came out of that during the commentary, that speaking to people at work, and I might have mentioned it to you as well, is that Newcastle have only lost 1 game this season, still only lost 1 game this season. Obviously, they've drawn lots. I've got to tell you, they've drawn 6 and won 6 now after yesterday's win at home to Villa. But they've actually only lost 1 game, which is the same amount as Man City and Arsenal. So I guess what a win for them away, because they're 6th, 4th. What a win away at Spurs. From a Spurs point of view, just really poor, mate. Really, really poor. I think there's a bit of an element of tiredness in there, I think. You could see that because he does like to play the same team, more or less. But what just exposed me, and I've gone on it for probably for 2 years on this pod, is just the lack of creativity. Obviously, sides now know how Conte's going to set up, know what Spurs are going to do. They're going to try and soak up, and then attack quickly, and obviously try and get the ball to one of Kane or Son, and then see what happens. But the twofold thing there at the minute is that sides aren't allowing us to do that. They're putting us under a huge amount of pressure on the press, which then all of a sudden, particularly on Sunday, when you've got Lloris, Sanchez, and Emerson who can't pass wind, you're under some serious pressure there. And of course, then they're not giving Kane and Son the space. Or, albeit that said, in the first 10 minutes, which probably should have been 2-0 up, particularly one really good chance that Kane put through to Son. I mean, if that goes in, as you well know, it's a different game then, isn't it? But very poor result. And of course, there was a few rumblings then after that. And in the week, we only draw at home in the Champions League. But I think you're going to expect that. I think what you've got to, from a Spurs point of view, is first of all, a year ago, Conte's been in charge a year, we were 9th or 10th and only going downwards. In the Europa League, the whole Kane thing was still a bit of a hangover, amongst other things. So you fast forward that to a year and you sat 3rd in the Premier League, Champions League progressions all in our hands. You've got to take that, haven't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you've got to look at the positives. It's too easy to be negative when you're watching football.
Yeah.
Right. Then we had Monday night, West Ham 2, Bournemouth 0. We're going to bypass the Champions League because we've got so much to get through. We're going to go to yesterday's football results. City winning 1-0. The one thing I do want to talk about in this is risking Haaland midweek in a nothing game when you've already qualified for Champions League and picking up another knock, resulting in them having him miss yesterday's game away to Leicester and relying on De Bruyne to score an absolute worldy free kick. Yeah. But what is Pep thinking? What's going on through his head?
Yeah, strange. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the injury or it was obviously we were out together yesterday, and you sort of mentioned it. It's like I say, a little bizarre to say the least to risk him when you're already qualified the Champions League, away game in the Premier League. You go to the point even that if he hadn't played in midweek, he's still not fit. Maybe not even playing yesterday at Leicester. But to think that he picked up another knot, just a bit bizarre, particularly when we've said for so many years that he tends to rotate people all the time. Now, he's never going to rotate Haaland in the big games, clearly. That's what he bought him for. But, a little bizarre. And I suppose from City fans, they'll be hoping it's not too serious and that he's back quickly.
Yeah. Other games, right? Well, let's talk about this yo-yo of a game. Bournemouth 2-0 up at home to Spurs. And Spursy didn't act Spurs-like. They actually came back and won 3-2 with a goal in the 90th minute, was it?
Yeah, Bentancur, yeah.
To be fair, it's a great side foot finish inside the area with all them bodies to just show that little bit of composure.
Yeah, I agree. I was about to say exactly the same, actually. And he's one player that I think has got that bit of creativity. I just think people need to be a bit patient with him. I think he's got quality, and that proved it in that finish. If you've not got quality, Højbjerg's not putting that in. Let's be honest, he's not putting that. He's hitting it into Rose Ed. Or if he gets older, it might fly in.
So neither Son at the moment either.
Nah, couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo. But Spurs, as bad as I clicked on after about the time we got in, I realised what was going on about half an hour in. Bournemouth is still 1-0 up, and then Kiefer Moore scored a great header, to be fair, although I think Eberson's got to be stronger, but it was a good header. But then second half, in all truth, Bournemouth didn't get a kick. They didn't even get in Spurs' half. And I just sensed Johnny Underhill appeared when we got back, and I said, we'll win this 3-2, Johnny. He's like, I said, we'll win it 3-2. You just sensed we got that first goal early enough. You just sensed it, and we got over. And a bit like you said, that the positive, that's the Conte effect, because Spursy being Spursy under Poch, for years wouldn't have come back from 2-0 down. They might have. Yeah, go. Yeah.
Well, I was going to, because you love talking about Spurs. We'll be here all week, so I'm just going to cut you off. I'm going to cut you out from your knees there. Move you on quickly, Jack. Right. Brentford won. Yeah, Brentford won, Wolves won. Neither here nor there for either team, that result. But did you see Diego Costa back to his old tricks?
No.
Headbutted the centre half, got sent off on the VAR review. And it's not even coming together, it's like a full whack. He's proper going to clock him. Numpty. And then we saw Graham Potter go back to Brighton in a result I don't think anybody in the world would have predicted. Brighton 4, Chelsea 1. I saw Brighton going 2-0 up, and I don't know if it's 2-0 up or 3-0 up, and then Chelsea got one back. I thought, here we go, Chelsea will make this a comeback. But yeah, Brighton then went and scored a fourth and completely killed the game off. So bad return for Potter.
Yeah. I haven't seen the goals, but there's no way you're predicting that result. They're not won since Potter left. They're not won. Only scored one goal, I think.
Yeah, well, 2 of the goals were Chelsea players that scored 2-1 goals. They were decent finishes, to be fair. And then Palace won 1-0 at home to Southampton. Good for Palace to bounce back. Doing a very underrated job there, Vieira. Just getting along with things. And then Villa doing probably the opposite to what they did last week. I actually watched this game. Newcastle 4, Villa 1. Newcastle looked good for it. Villa just looked open and just gaps. It was like watching Swiss cheese. There was holes everywhere. And then I watched the Fulham-Everton game. Proper full day of football yesterday. For 0-0s, this was quite an entertaining 0-0 game. And I think they looked at 20-something shots for one team. And I think in total, they reckon that there might have been over 30 shots in the game, or even maybe 40 shots. But yet nobody could score. Pickford's had a great game again, probably securing his place as England's number 1, ready for the World Cup. Looks in great form. And then I stayed up for the dreaded Liverpool versus Leeds game. You didn't see this, have you, Jack?
No, I've not seen it all, no.
Right. So we're getting to the game. We're about 3 minutes into the game. We're looking okay. We're quite steady, looking quite sharp. Gomez goes chasing Leeds player down, gets in front of him, goes to play the ball square to the keeper, but doesn't look where the keeper is. The keeper's come almost just directly bottom of him, and he's gone to play it across the goal, thinking the keeper was there. Keeper then tried to move his feet, slipped slightly, and Rodri's just running 3 yards out, tapped into an open net. Not the start that you want as a Liverpool fan or a Liverpool team. I know some people are not sure where to lay the blame, but Gomez has got to be looking where the keeper is before he passes it. He's plastic blind. Alisson's obviously gone to try and close down the space, reduce the gap between him and the ball being played into a nice angle. He's not seen it and he's played it square. 1-0 down, and then we bang on the door a little bit, a couple of half chances, and then cross came in from the right, ended up going to the back post from the left. Left comes back in, and then Salah taps one in, back post, 1-1. And then it was just a game of Liverpool bashing on Leeds' door. Keeper, I can't remember how do you pronounce his name? Melanie?
Oh yeah. Don't know.
He's made some great saves second half. I'd say savable shots when they shouldn't have been savable. Right, Bobby's header right at the end, he's headed it right at the keeper. He's got either left or right by 5 yards. It's in the bottom corner. And then just out of nothing, and I want to throw this out there now, and people can feel free to comment, but Van Dijk has not covered himself in glory at all. Ball's bounced in there. I thought Van Dijk could have stepped in to put pressure on. Doesn't. Is it Summerfield or Somerville?
Yeah.
But ball bounces to him. And then even then, I think Van Dijk's flat-footed that he can't move his body or his leg across to try and get a block on the shot. And to be fair, the kid's put it right in the bottom corner. Alisson's not doing anything about it. But I think Van Dijk could have stopped that. And I thought Trent was playing all right. He looked our threat with some great through balls. And he's brought him off with 5-6 minutes to go and put on Milner. And if I'm right in saying, I think it's Milner's bad clearance that's led to Leeds getting the ball in the box and then Somerville putting it in the bottom corner. So questions have got to be asked there about what the gaffer's doing. And Trent didn't look very happy. And I thought he wasn't playing that badly. But as they say, in Klopp we trust.
Yeah. Like you say, you've got to go. I think we said last week that there's probably a bit of a rebuilding stage that's needed, just as when he first came in. It's just when does he do it, how does he do it, and will he be the man to do it? Yeah, that's all.
He usually has 7 years at clubs and then moves, and he's on his 7th year now. So we'll be interested to see how this progresses as the season goes on.
Yeah.
But I hope Liverpool fans don't forget too quickly on what we've achieved in the last 7 years under him. At the same time, I think there's a certain expectation that if you can't get a tune out of the players that we've got there, and we've got some world-class footballers, it then becomes that sudden, it's almost like that Poch thing, isn't it? Do we hold on because he's given us this much, but then everything else is looking like it's falling down the sideways and you don't want to get to the point where it's too late?
Yeah, exactly.
That's an interesting debate for another day. But moving on to today's fixtures, Arsenal play Forest and United play West Ham. So I'm going to go with 2 home wins there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you this question because we just get peppered on Twitter by Henry because I think he has nothing else to do other than just post on Twitter. But Gabriel Jesus, beginning of the season, unbelievable, absolute class. Got himself to 5 goals, I think, in the first couple of games. Hasn't scored since.
Yeah.
I think this might be 3 or 4 games without scoring for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Has he done what I talked about Isak doing, is arrives, make a massive impact, and then just kind of falls by the wayside? Or do we expect him to then carry on scoring?
I think maybe, I think personally, I think he's somewhere with all of it. I think because he'll continue to be picked, because they've basically got nobody else, he will eventually score more goals and probably finish with 15 Premier League goals potentially. But my thing is obviously he's moved to a new club. He's definitely done that, trying to make an impact. But I think it comes down to the fact that he's not quite a top level striker at this level. You talk about Pep, arguably the best coach that's probably been in our lifetime, if you like, whatever. He's no mug. He's not letting go somebody who he thinks is going to score 20 Premier League goals a season in a really top side, is he? He's not going to do that. He's too, forget whether he was going to buy Haaland or not, right? He's not letting a 20 goal a season striker go. Simple as that. Not for that money. So I'm not saying he's a bad player, Jay. He's far from it. I think he's always been there or thereabouts, but I don't think he's a top level goal scorer. And I think perhaps that's what we're seeing, because it's not like he's not getting chances. Arsenal are playing well and they're creating chances for him. If those chances were falling to Haaland, Aguero, then there's no doubt that he would be scoring more. They'd be scoring more goals. So I think it's just a bit of a combination of the two. Be interested to see if the drought continues, because if it does, then what does Arteta do? Does he give him a rest and bring in Nketiah for a little bit, or what? I don't know, but interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of combinations there, but I really like. I think he's had a great start. It's Martinelli.
Yeah,
I think this boy's a lot of quality. But before we move off from football, I'm actually just one question: is there a favourite for the World Cup this year?
Well, it was on about last night. I don't think there is. If somebody was having to say you've got to pick one team, I would probably go France. That said, I think I said this yesterday, if I was putting a 50-50 each way bet on, and I know they're not as good as they used to be, I know that, but tournament football, I wouldn't necessarily bet against Germany either. I know they're not
interesting.
I know they're not the side that people. I don't know that, but I just think tournament football. Look at Italy in the Euros last year or whatever it was 2 years ago, and of course I think you mentioned it. Belgium are probably the side, but you just wonder whether they're just going to be those just can't get over the line. That kind of team. But yeah, I'll go France.
Interesting. Right. Okay, we will move on.
The cricket. What's going on? Tell me what is going on.
Right. So, well, I know you're going to go into it in more detail, but I can't understand why we're playing a tournament in the wet season when other games are going to get washed out, and therefore your best teams might not make it through. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, there is that point. I mean, obviously, the weather's only really been in Melbourne to a degree, which is notorious for 4 seasons in one day. But and I think they're having it. unseasonably wet start to the season. But the other thing that I read about was that apparently prior to this, there had only been 6 full international games of cricket played in Australia before the end of October, prior to the World Cup. So it does.
So you mentioned. I was going to say, you mentioned there about the games being in Melbourne and that's been particularly wet. But am I led to believe that just down the road from the current ground that they're playing the games at, there's a stadium which has covers?
Yeah, so they're playing obviously the games at the MCG now, like literally down the road, a bit like Liverpool Everton. There's the Marvel Stadium, which has a roof, and they've played all sports under that roof, including cricket, Big Bash cricket. They've played international cricket underneath it. So yeah, I don't know. It's a bit flawed. I don't know why they've had to rush it in this early. I suspect it's because of the Big Bash. So Australia have sort of said we'll host it, but it's got to be done and dusted before our Big Bash, which will start pretty much as soon as this was finished in November. But if that's the case, that's poor, because surely international cricket takes precedent over domestic stuff where you try and fit both in. I don't know, but it's a bit strange because, you know, as cricket fans and things like that, you just want to see games of cricket being played and not decided by Duckworth-Lewis, or, as is the case at the weekend, games being completely washed out. So what it has done, from an England point of view, is put them under a little bit of pressure because, I mean, obviously they won the first game easy last week against Sri Lanka. They're losing the week to Ireland, which was pathetic. They were pathetic. But when you're chasing the score with Duckworth-Lewis, where you just have to be 1 run above par score, and you can see it's all on the scoreboard, how they've got themselves into that mess, I don't know. I didn't watch any of it because I was at work, but just bizarre. So that put them under pressure, basically needing to win the last 3 games. That included Australia yesterday, or Friday, sorry. But of course, that was all washed out. So now they've got 2 games left, New Zealand and Sri Lanka, which New Zealand won easy yesterday. So they're through. They'll be fine. So obviously, England win both games, I think they'll be fine because their run rate's they're actually second still at the moment on run rate. So if they win the next 2, then they should go through, unless Australia win both theirs and absolutely thrash somebody, which they could do because they have got Ireland to play. So that, you know, that's feasibly could happen. Other than that, England could probably win one of the 2, and if results go their way, they'll probably still go up, but go through. But yeah, they're under a bit of pressure, that's for sure. I think the biggest thing for me, and I said it in the summer, is I don't think Joss Butler can keep wicket and captain and open the batting in T20 stuff. It's a big enough job in normal stuff when you've got a bit more time. But obviously, hell for leather cricket, doing wicket keeping towards your bowlers, it's not right. So I'm not saying he shouldn't be captain. He fields in a lot of the other T20 franchise stuff that he plays in, while other people keep. We've got Phil Salt there. Bairstow obviously would have been the obvious choice as well if he was fit, but he's not there. So I would be making that change. I would probably leave Milan out, or Stokes maybe, who's not had any runs with the bat. Bring in Salt to keep wicket, allow Joss to captain and bat at the top of the order and go from there. But we shall see. Hopefully it'll come good. They'll win the 2 games and then they go again.
Okay, right. So I'm going to ask you this then. Who's winning this tournament?
Australia.
So that means that England won't qualify if New Zealand have qualified?
Yeah, I've just got a feeling.
Ooh.
I've just got this feeling on home because that's how they are. Australia at home, I think that. I've just got
like the Germans of football.
They are. They're nemesis. I've just got this feeling. I've got a feeling that England won't qualify. Australia will sneak in and then they'll go on and win it.
Right, okay. Talking about internationals, the England women's rugby won yesterday to move themselves into the semi-finals, beating Australia in extremely wet conditions. But end of the day, they won.
Yeah.
So going well. But they were tournament favourites before going into this, so expected to make the final and lift the trophy at the end of it. So congratulations, ladies. Well done on that. And sticking on ladies, we're going to look at boxing.
Yeah, see, Katie Taylor last night defended her titles and it still remains the undisputed female, but best female boxer of all time, I would have thought. She is so good. So fast, so fit, so strong, so powerful. And just beats everybody in a wake.
Right, so I'm going to throw this out there. At what point does she then fight a bloke?
Can you ever see that happening? Just generally, whether it's her or not? It'd be interesting. I'm pretty sure that she would have sparred against some in training, you'd have thought, wouldn't she? But yeah, I'd be interested. She's very, very good. Whether that'll ever happen, Stu, I've got absolutely no idea. But we shall see. We shall see in the future. I think he's frozen, ladies and gentlemen. I think he's frozen. Oh, his iPad has overheated, he's just told me. Okay, well, that's probably it for today's show. Don't forget your fantasy football and your Premier League stuff. We're going to go and try and find out whether Stu can rescue his overheated iPad. And maybe he's just had enough of Liverpool's results. I don't know. But at the end of the day, guys, what do we know?